Our guest for the morning is Ahmed Ibrahim, second Deputy Majority Whip in Parliament. He's a Member of Parliament for Banda. Banda is in the Bunafo region. For those of you who don't know, you should visit there. Very nice arable lands they have, especially for cashew farming. Very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Roland.
We heard of an incident over the weekend in Côte d'Ivoire in which some 16 people died. There was an attack in Grand Bassam. At least we're told that 2 other hotels were also attacked, and as well as a Grand Beach resort. Very much patronized by revelers and foreign tourists.
Yeah, good morning to our cherished viewers this morning once again. Roland, to begin with, let me say a very good morning to the First Lady of the Republic of Ghana, Her Excellency Dr. Mrs. Lordina Mahama. Over the weekend, she was in my constituency.
She was?
So I had to go and meet her.
Is that where she went to some schools and things like that?
Yeah, she went to meet the chiefs and people of the Bana traditional area and donated some items to the health directorate.
Okay.
And Roland, it as if it was by planned. You realize that what she presented was really what the people needed. Meanwhile, she had not sent any advance party there, and she's not been there before. This was the first time, even in the history of Ghana, that a first lady visited the area and presented things that were at the bottom, the heart of the people. These items...
And that was just over the weekend?
Over the weekend. And you know the history. The people in the community, those residents in Kumasi, at the time went to some program in the constituency. Some fell sick. They were rushed to the hospital, the health center. Then when they went there, there were no hospital beds. So they had to sleep on the floor and be treated and be... So when they came back, they organized and bought some items for the community, including hospital beds. So when last week, Friday, the First Lady went there and donated some of these hospital beds to the people, including some medical equipment and medicine, the chief and his people were overwhelmed and didn't know how to describe their appreciation for these items. And I believe, Roland, if she keeps on doing that, you know, health is very sensitive to every body. And if there's a First Lady who has identified that aspect, that this is the area I'm going to tackle, and I'm going to be donating such items to people, I think she needs to be commended on that. And in this way, I'm not surprised that she's become, like, to describe her like a magnet for development in the history of Ghana.
Fantastic. You've had your way. I address my issue about the tragedy in
Roland, the tragedy in Ivory Coast. You see, this is not the first time it has happened in West Africa. Previously, we used to hear of those things in other areas. We used to hear of those tragedies in other areas. And clearly, it used to happen in the Eastern African countries. Hardly did we hear of any of such events in the Western part. If you hear of anything in the Western part of Africa, it either used to be maybe boundary disputes, maybe some kind of overthrowing a sitting government by military regimes and those things. We hear of ECOMOG, we hear of Liberia, this thing, we hear of Sierra Leone, this thing. These are things that used to happen in West Africa. If you hear of Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, and all those things, it used to be, until Boko Haram came, it used to be only in the Kenya, Somalia, Ethiopia, and these areas. But now, recently, Roland, we heard of just the most recent ones.
But let me just cut you in and you come in. I have Dr. Kwesian in. He's a security aspect and also works with the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Center. And now, particularly for what has happened in Côte d'Ivoire, does it mean that terrorism is close to our shores? Hello, a very good morning to you, sir. Oh, we seem to have lost him.
Yeah, what we used to say was far away has now gradually crippled into the West African sub-region. Even Boko Haram, we used to see it only on TV. But until recently, a hotel was bombed in Burkina Faso. A similar thing has happened in Cote d'Ivoire. If you go to the western part of Ghana, we have Cote d'Ivoire. You go to the northern part, we have Burkina Faso. So if Cote d'Ivoire has been hotel in Cote d'Ivoire has been blasted, hotel in Burkina Faso, I think the most luxurious hotel in Burkina Faso also has been blasted. Roland, if you are in Ghana and you are in charge of Ghana, nobody should tell you. You need no security expert to advise you that we should well equip and well prepare ourselves. It is against this background that the postal packet and telecommunication messages bill is in Parliament. Roland, you hear the public sentiment about this particular bill.
Yeah, because we know the Ghana Bar Association has just...
Exactly. I heard it in the news. So when I was coming, it's in my car. So I just had to take the bill. And if you listen to the object of the bill, if you give me permission, I'll read it to your hearing.
No, we don't have the time.
Exactly. You see that what the postal packet and telecommunication messages bill is saying that there is real security threat on the life of every citizen. And to prepare to protect the security of the state and the security of every individual is to make sure that you work on the cyberspace or telecommunication messages where those perpetrators of those heinous victims, these atrocities, operate through. And it is against that background that that bill is in Parliament. So I think as a country, we rather have to support the national security to make sure that they bring this lawful intersection of postal packet and telecommunication messages bill, pass it by Parliament in the form that it will help strengthen our national security to make sure that if it happened in Cote d'Ivoire and happened in Burkina Faso, it will never happen in Ghana. Roland, Ghana now have most of the world and international standard hotels that are sprinkled up in every aspect of the country. And these are the areas that are highly targeted by those networks. So if you listen to what happened in Burkina Faso, they went to a hotel where foreigners and the rich men and the gentry in the community were patronizing. What has happened in Cote d'Ivoire is the same thing. If you come to Ghana, go to Accra Central and see. We have most of the luxurious internationally standard hotels. And who are those people who have been going there, Roland? The most influential and the breadwinners in every country, the investors who come and transact business with the high power of this country, they are the people who lodge in those areas. If you don't protect them, what the national security is telling us is that when such things happen, they scare investors away. Those who come and invest in your economy are being scared away.
Well, we do understand that, but at the end of the day, I believe the arguments I've heard from security experts following some of these attacks emanating whether from Nigeria, we have recently Burkina Faso and now Cote d'Ivoire, is that if we want to have a grip on security, it means border controls need to be tighter, and we know we have porous border controls.
Precisely.
Our border security agents also perhaps don't have the best of facilities and equipment to be able to detect, etc. So even having such laws won't cut it. So it means that we have to step up the next level.
Roland, all those problems that you have enumerated does not mean we should just throw our hands in the sky or in the air. You have to begin from somewhere. Beginning from somewhere is the legal and legislative process has to be taken through. You know, we just recently passed the Ghana Immigration Service Bill, which has empowered the Ghana Immigration Service now to be well equipped in their border patrols, which has enhanced the working conditions of service of the Ghana personnel in the Ghana Immigration Service, which has elevated them to a certain level. So now, previously when you go to the borders, you realize that the other border patrols in the sister countries were well equipped than ours. Now, with the passage of the Ghana Immigration Service Bill, you realize that our immigration service now are going to be raised to unequal status. Now, with the passage of the postal packet and telecommunication message bill, which is being brought by the national security to be operated by the Ministry of Defense and Interior, where the Ghana Immigration Service, who are responsible for our border patrols, fall in, you realize that they are going to be given the necessary technology the necessary equipment to be able to communicate from the borders to the center, so that we'll be able to tighten the securities in that respect.
Well, somebody will say that this is book talk because, for example, in the community in which you are the member of parliament for that whole constituency, you're almost like border Cote d'Ivoire.
Precisely.
Okay. So, because I've been there several times, I
Precisely.
know. Now, it's a porous border area.
Precisely.
Okay. So they won't go through the well-managed or manned border communities or patrols areas.
Roland, you said this. Somebody will say this is a book talk. Roland, what is it? Your strategy has to be on paper. Legislating.
We're talking about a realistic situation.
The realistic one is, you know, my community that you cited as an example is just been given a district status. The district police command.
I know very well. I'm not talking only about.
I like that. You know, we share border with Ghana, Ivory Coast, and even the Bui Lake. The Bui Lake is now the demarcation line for.
Well, we have on the line Ivorian journalist Saleh Mario Kuswa or Kwasi. Okay, Saleh Marius Kwasi is on the line. A very good morning to you, Mr. Kwasi. Hello, good morning, Mr. Kwasi. Good morning, Mr. Kwasi. Okay.
Kwasi may be my countryman. We share border.
Yes, definitely. But at the end of the day, it's how government needs to take this as serious as we can. But it's also a West African thing.
You know, Roland,
do you think that the West African sub-regional group in ECOWAS took some of these incidents that were recorded in the last few months as serious as they should have?
Roland, precisely. You know, I've been to the ECOWAS. I've been a member of the ECOWAS Parliament before. You know what they were seeking for and they were not given. It was Senegal that trashed it with Cote d'Ivoire. So, and you see where they are operating. The whole West African sub-region, they were enhancing the powers of the ECOWAS Parliament to make sure that they legislate on some of those issues. In the ECOWAS Parliament, they have a committee that they call the Political Peace and Security Committee. And it is that committee that was responsible for the peace and security, including some of those issues. It was that committee that mediated between the Guinea, this process, that mediated between the Burkina Faso, that mediated between the problem in Mali and those countries. So when they came to Ghana, at that time, President Mahama was the chairman of the ECOWAS, that they were enhancing the powers of the ECOWAS so that they were able to legislate on some of those security and trade issues. It was Cote d'Ivoire and Senegal. They voted against it. Look at where the problem has emerged, just from Cote d'Ivoire. So it would have helped Cote d'Ivoire at that time if they voted for the community parliament to enhance their powers on legislation, so that they would take a common legislation and make sure that we have very, very security-sensitive laws that will help to bring the 16 countries together. And we can have a standing army, a standing judiciary to be able to do the necessary legislation. Because of country sovereignty, Senegal said no, because they were going to have the speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament if the status quo remained. And Cote d'Ivoire assisted them. Now Senegal they've gotten their speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, but it is just an advisory body like it used to be. So some of those things. So
you're saying that at the regional grouping level, we should take some of these things as
seriously, and we must legislate
the government of Ghana.
Well.
What should the government of Ghana be doing?
The government of Ghana has sent, first of all, the government has reacted positively in sending the message of condolences to the Ivorian government, which I think is in the right direction. Besides that, having been the chairman of the ECOWAS Parliament, a member of the Pan-African Parliament, a member of Ghana's Parliament, and a spokesperson on international and foreign affairs, and a member, chairman of ECOWAS community.
Okay. We have Saleh Mario Kwasi. A very good morning to you, Mr. Kwasi.
Good morning, guys.
Now, specifically on the attack in Grand Bassin, particularly what are the immediate remedial measures that the security services in Cote d'Ivoire have taken to make sure that the security situation is well and very well under control?
Well, since yesterday early in the afternoon till this morning, they have started to search, I mean, the area around all the houses around the beach, and they have increased, let's say, the police patrol as well. So you have the special units of the army who are patrolling the city of Grand Bassam, which is like 25 miles away from Abidjan for the eastern side. So from Abidjan now, this morning you can see uh, police forces and special forces of the army patrolling all the cities. They are everywhere, and they are trying to increase the patrols as well. But the government, let's say the spokesperson of the Interior Ministry said that it will last many weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, so we have to do with it.
But what is the information that is trickling in, that the attacks were undertaken by just militants or perhaps they are indigenous groupings that are also very much unsatisfied with the political status quo?
Well, in the beginning, it was unclear for the government if the attack was led by, let's say, Al-Qaeda in Islamic Maghreb. But when they heard about the release that has been communicated by US media saying that Al-Qaeda in Islamic Maghreb claimed responsibility, I mean, the fear gripped all the population, not only in Bassam, but also in Abidjan, because the two cities are close, you know. So right now, what people are trying to do, they are trying to communicate about that to, let's say, to elaborate about the measure of the population has taken to avoid, I mean, places like stadiums and bars and beaches, and to be more careful about where they go and to avoid, let's say, unnecessary trips around.
How far now are is the international community involved in the emergency security measures that have been taken in Abidjan areas just beyond the capital?
Well, it's not, you know, the main target of the attacker was not only the Ivory national, but Westerners who usually hit the street and to have fun as well. So it's not only this who are involved in the issue, and more people in security that are involved in the international issue. Because, you know, the target is not only Ivorian nationals, as I said, you have also Westerners and mainly French people who are living here, because we still have a big military battle by French forces in Ivory Coast. I have to underline the fact that the special unit of the Ivorian army that was on the ground to try to, let's say, get the attackers out were backed by French forces in Ivory Coast. So it's not only a national issue, you know, it goes behind national borders, and you have people involved in it. So we have, at the time, being fought, let's say, it's from French authorities, not only authorities, and from everywhere and everywhere.
Well, we have to let you go, though. But one more question. You've just, after some few years, been coming out of a conflict situation. And so no matter what we want to think or perhaps discuss, there are still some pent-up feelings among some sections of the public, especially the militant or the militant grouping or sectional groupings within the public. Is there the fear that this very attack could also lead to some reprisals or also some fermentation of the current attacks that have been initiated by, if it's the Islamic Maghreb militant or even Al-Qaeda related groups?
You know, the thing, let's say the bad things with this attack is that right now part of the population can be clear, let's say, difference between these Muslims and other Muslims who are more tolerant, you know. And what we might, let's say, see in the coming, maybe we might have a kind of rise of stigmatization and against the other Muslims. But this is not a good fact as well. It can deepen the gaps that are existing between the former rivalry groups, I mean the pro and the pro-Ouattara, because now right now the discourse about that is really intense. Many people who are backing Gbagbo think that Ouattara people lack the, let's say, they don't master the security aspect of the country, while some seem accuse that they have been working together, and so I think that there was some lack of security with national intervention.
Well, thank you very much. And we've been speaking to Mr. Sele Kwasi, and he is a journalist based in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, and speaking to us on the current security situation that has been mounted by the security agencies following that very attack at Grand Bassin and 2 other hotels, in which we've been told that more than 14 people have lost their lives, and they're still counting some injuries. And subsequently, those security checkpoints have been beefed up to make sure that the security situation is kept under wraps. Thank you very much, Kwasi. But that also says a lot about what the fears and fears not are. Do you think, because of the history of Côte d'Ivoire with conflict more recently, sometimes the situation becomes murky because the Islamic State in the Maghreb could take responsibility for the attack, but it also means that it could be coming from within, you never know.
Yeah.
Just taking advantage of the perhaps fertile atmosphere to fester a lot more trouble.
Roland, you are perfectly right. In fact, that was my suspicion as a politician. Well, you realize that they've just come out of a conflict situation, and clearly some of those areas are fertile grounds for the operation for those operatives. They will just come to the opposition or to come to government. Even within government, there can be subgroups or sub-camps within the government itself. So you don't even easily find it prudent to just apportion blame that is either from the opposition or is either from Al-Qaeda or either from the... I think serious investigation has to be carried on. Other than that, they can be overtaken by events. But if you take your time and realize that you look within rather than looking without, if you look within clearly, you must see symptoms or traces of those kinds of things. And I think...
Okay.